Max and Evie loved visiting Tick-Tock Treasures. The shelves were stacked with golden pocket watches, cuckoo clocks, and glass timepieces that sparkled under the warm shop lights. But something was different tonight. As they helped Mr. Ellroy close the shop, Evie's ears perked up. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It was coming from behind the bookshelf. Mr. Ellroy frowned. "That can't be. The old clock shouldn't be working." Max's curiosity burned. He reached for the bookshelf, and it moved. A hidden door swung open. Behind it, a staircase spiraled downward into the dark, and the ticking grew louder. Max and Evie hesitated at the entrance. "Is this your workshop?" Evie asked. Mr. Ellroy sighed. "It was, but I locked it away long ago." "But why?" Max asked. Before Mr. Ellroy could answer, a gust of wind pulled them inside. The door slammed shut behind them. They found themselves in a massive underground room. Giant gears turned on the walls. Floating glowing clocks hovered in midair. At the center stood a gigantic golden clock, the grand clock. But something was wrong. Its hands were moving backward. Mr. Ellroy gasped. "This is impossible. The grand clock. It's broken." Evie stepped closer. "What happens if it stops?" Mr. Ellroy's face darkened. "Then all the clocks in the world will stop too." Max's eyes widened. "Even time itself?" The old man nodded. "Time will freeze, forever." Just then, a shadowy figure darted behind the gears. Max and Evie exchanged looks. Someone else was in the workshop. They chased after the shadow, weaving through cogs and ticking machines. Suddenly, crash! A shelf of old clocks toppled over, blocking their path. "Who's there?" Max called. A voice whispered from the darkness. "I only wanted to fix it." A small boy stepped into the light. He wore old-fashioned clothes and his eyes glowed like clock hands. "I'm Oliver," he said, "and I was trapped in time." Oliver explained his story. "Many years ago, I was an apprentice here," he said. "But one day I made a mistake. I touched the grand clock, and it sent me back in time." "You mean you've been stuck here?" Evie gasped. Oliver nodded. "I tried to fix the clock to return to my time, but instead, I made it worse." Max frowned. "Then we have to fix it together." Mr. Ellroy hesitated. "The only way is to find the missing time gear, but it was lost long ago." Oliver's face lit up. "Not lost, hidden." Oliver led them to an ancient puzzle box covered in strange symbols. "Inside is the time gear," he said, "but we need the code to open it." The box had 3 golden hands like clock hands. Max read the riddle written on it. "Turn me once at morning light, twice at noon so bold and bright, thrice at night when stars take flight." Evie thought hard. That must mean set the hands to 7 a.m., 12 p.m., and 9 p.m. Max turned the hands. Click. The box opened. Inside was the missing time gear. They ran back to the grand clock, but its hands were moving even faster. "It's almost out of time," Mr. Ellroy cried. Max held the time gear. "Where does it go?" Oliver pointed. "In the heart of the clock." Max climbed the gears and reached for the glowing slot in the center. But just as he was about to place it, the floor shook. The clock was collapsing. Max had one chance. He took a deep breath and leaped into the air. As he fell, he slammed the time gear into place. For a second, everything froze. Then, whoosh! A golden light exploded from the clock. The gears started moving forward again. Time was restored. Oliver smiled. "You did it. Time is moving again." Max and Evie cheered, but then Oliver looked sad. "My time is calling me back," he said. A glowing doorway of light appeared. Oliver turned to Mr. Ellroy. "Thank you for teaching me." Mr. Ellroy wiped a tear. "You were my best apprentice." Oliver stepped through the door, and in a blink, he was gone. Back in the shop, the secret door to the workshop vanished. "Will it ever open again?" Evie asked. Mr. Ellroy smiled. "Only when time calls for it." As they left the shop, Max checked his pocket. Inside was a tiny glowing gear, a reminder of their adventure. Maybe the grand clock wasn't done with them yet.